Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Cunningham. I'm one of the counselors here at Dallas Area Habitat. Today we have a Mr. Matt Wernz. He's the Regional Director of the Federal Trade Commission. Good morning to you. And I'm gonna let Mr. Matthew get started with us with scams and identity theft. So Matt, we're gonna turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Monica. Good morning, everyone. As Monica mentioned, I'm Matt Wernz. I'm the Director of the Federal Trade Commission's Southwest region, which is here in Dallas. And I'm here to tell you today about two topics, consumer scams and identity theft. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Habitat for Humanity. I'd like to thank Monica, Aretha Higgins, and Ashley Brundage for inviting me here today to talk to you all. And I appreciate your patience bearing with me as I toggle through the screens here. But I hope you can see everything. So before we get started, I have to give my standard government disclaimer that the views I express today are my own. They don't necessarily express the views of the Federal Trade Commission or of any individual commissioner. So with that out of the way, I'm here to talk to you today about scams and identity theft. With both topics, I want to let you know the data we're seeing as an agency, and also give you some practical tips to spot, avoid, and recover from scams and identity theft that may affect you or someone you love. So the first topic today is scams. So first, I want to tell you about the top consumer scams the FTC has seen in the last year. When people report fraud or other bad business practices to the FTC, that information goes into what's called the Consumer Sentinel Network database. It's sort of like a private search engine for fraud complaints. Those FTC reports go along with reports that people make to other federal and state agencies like a state attorney general and to groups like the Better Business Bureau and the AARP. All of these reports help the FTC look for patterns and trends to identify enforcement targets and to educate the public to trending scams. And each year we put together a report on those scam trends and patterns. So you can see here the trends we saw in 2024. Last year, we received 2.6 million fraud reports as an agency. Now that is roughly the same number as in 2023. And one thing I want to say right off the bat is that the reports we get are just a small fraction of the fraud that exists. A lot of people who are defrauded do not realize they've been defrauded. They are too embarrassed or scared to report fraud, or they report fraud to somewhere like their bank or a local police department that may not forward that fraud to the FTC. So 2.6 million reports of fraud is an astonishing number, particularly knowing that it's a small fraction of the overall size of the fraud. Of these reports, 2.6 million reports, one change we've seen from previous years is that more people are losing money and that those people are losing more money. So whereas about 1 in every 4 reports back in 2023 said that the consumer lost money, last year that number jumped to 1 in 3 reports. So more people are losing money. And the total reported losses also jumped last year from $10 billion in 2023 to $12.5 billion in 2024. So it is not an exaggeration at all to say that fraud is a multi-billion-dollar problem in the United States. So what types of fraud are we seeing at the FTC? Well, the five most important, most reported frauds last year were very similar to the year before. Imposter scams are still number one. And we're going to go into some detail on each of these scams a little later on. But I want to cover the sort of the terrain first. Imposter scams happen when someone pretends to be someone they're not. That could be a family member, a love interest, a government agency, or a business. The scammer's goal is to convince you that they are who they're pretending to be, and to use that trust to get you to send money or personal information. Online shopping scams were number two, and often involved people not getting what they ordered or being billed for something they didn't order. Businesses and job opportunities scams were third, and these usually involve job scams and scams around employment opportunities. Investment scams and internet services round out the top five, and I want to spend just a second on investment scams for now. The numbers here are really astonishing. Nearly 80% of people who reported an investment-related scam to the FTC said that they also lost money as part of that scam. And these people lost a lot of money to investment scams. The median loss was over $9,000. That adds up to total losses related to investment scams of $5.7 billion, which is a huge percentage of the overall losses to fraud nationwide. Now let's talk about a little bit in a little more detail about some of these frauds. And I want to start with the number one fraud on the list, imposters. As I mentioned, scammers like to disguise themselves as any number of organizations or people to steal your money or personal information, from government to business to a friend or love interest. Imposter scams can start in a variety of ways. Right now, we're seeing a scam that starts with someone who contacts you and says that they're from a company you may know, like Amazon, or maybe from your bank. They tell you there's a problem with your account and that they'll transfer you to someone who can supposedly help you. That person may claim to be a government official. Sometimes they even say they work for the FTC like I do, but they're not. It's all a scam. You know this is a scam because they'll tell you to move your money from your bank, or they'll tell you how to move it, putting it in something like gold bars or cryptocurrency. No one from the government will ever tell you to do that. Another imposter scam that's running wild right now is the toll text scam, where you get a text saying that you owe unpaid tolls and that you may face penalties or suspension of your vehicle registration. These are just a couple of types of imposter scams. There are many others. Romance scams are a huge problem, and I see in the chat that we have someone chiming in that they know someone who's been harmed by romance scams. Amazon delivery scams, grandparent scams, scams impersonating government agencies, including the FTC. Now, as I promised at the outset, I want you to come out of this hour knowing more about scams and identity theft, but also being empowered to be able to identify a scam or an identity thief and to avoid those types of harms for yourselves and for those that you love. So, signs of an imposter scam. First of all, you get an unexpected contact. It can be a phone call, it can be a text, it can be an email, it can be a direct message on social media. So that's sign number one. You're getting a contact out of the blue that you didn't expect. Second of all, the communication is from someone you are meant to trust. That can be a family member, that can be a loved one, it can be a government agency or brand name. Third, the communication, the unexpected message, tells you that there's an urgent need for you to prevent or to cure harm to someone or something important. And then last, there's a strange request. Maybe it's sending payment by cryptocurrency, wire transfer, or gift cards. Maybe it's moving your money in order to protect it. Or maybe it's turning over your personal information on a link that the message provides. And here are some messages that you'll hear from a scammer when they're trying to get you to do something pursuant to an imposter scam. One is you'll hear some messages that communicate this urgent need that I just mentioned. Act now. That's a scam. Scammers use pressure so you don't have time to think. Pressuring you to act now is always the sign of a scam. Only say what I tell you to say. That's a scam. Don't trust anyone. They're in on it. That's another scam. Scammers want to cut you off from anyone who might slow you down. Do this or you'll be arrested. That's a scam. Any threat like that is a lie. Nobody needs money or information to keep you out of jail or avoid bigger fines. They're all scams. Don't hang up. That's a scam. If someone wants to keep you on the phone while you go withdraw or transfer money or anything else they're asking you to do, that is a scammer. Do hang up. Here's some other messages you might hear from an imposter scammer, all of which are strange requests. Move your money so that you can protect it. That's definitely a scam. Withdraw money and buy gold bars. Withdraw cash and give it to someone you don't know. Go to a Bitcoin ATM. Buy gift cards. These are all scams. There's never a reason to pay anyone in those ways. And they're a surefire sign of a scam. And this is really important. I want to wrap up the signs of an imposter scam with this. You need to look out for these signs for yourself. You also need to keep an eye on your loved ones for these signs. You may have a parent who lives alone, who you notice is sending money in strange ways. You may have a friend who becomes romantically involved online with someone who they've never met in person. These are really hard conversations to have with people you love the most, but they're really essential. Okay, so how can you fight back against the #1 scam in America, imposter scams? First thing you can do is stop and think. Remember, scammers want you to act urgently. In order to fight back, what can you do? Take your time. Ask yourself, does this make sense? Second, talk to someone you trust. A friend or a family member can often sniff out a scam for you, just as you can for them. Or sometimes just speaking it out loud can make you realize it's a scam. I have a friend, this person's a lawyer at a big law firm, and so he's an experienced person. He was about to pay a tech support scammer over the phone to clean up his computer. It was a scammer. At that moment, his wife walked in the room and asked, what was he doing? He started to tell her, and all of a sudden the light went on. This is a scam. He hung up the phone and saved himself a lot of money and stress. Good job by his wife, by the way, walking in the room at that moment. Third thing you can do, verify the identity of anyone asking for your personal information. I've received scam texts that claim to be my bank and ask me to click on a link to reset my username and password. You know what I do? I don't click on the link. Instead, I know how to contact my bank. I call the 800 number on the back of my debit card, or I open my bank app to see if there's a notification there. Use the ways that you trust to contact these companies rather than the links that a stranger sends to you. A fourth way to fight back, don't click on suspicious links. They can only come, these can come by text or by email. but don't click on them. They want your personal information. And once they have it, they can log into any number of databases. I'm sure I'm not alone as someone who has maybe used their bank account password on another website that also has valuable information. So once these scammers have your login information, they may be able to use it time and time again across different websites. Also, don't send verification codes. When someone logs into your account from a new device, new computer, new phone, a bank, the IRS, or another site that where you have an account often will send a message to you by text or by email. Typically, it'll have about 6 digits in it to confirm that you are the person you say you are when you're logging in. If you aren't the person logging in, never turn that information over. Once a scammer has that verification code, they can clean out that account. Fifth, don't pay by strange methods and don't move your money to protect it. I don't know about all of you, but I've never paid anyone in crypto. I've never paid anyone in gold bars. I've never paid anyone in bags of cash. If it's not a payment method that you've used before, it's a sign of a scam. Okay, I want to make sure that we're moving on to other types of scams as well. Another reported scam that we heard a lot about in the last year was fraud related to businesses and job opportunities. I want to highlight this because the data shows that both reports and losses related to these types of scams jumped a lot. From 2020 to 2024, a period of 4 years, reports tripled and the amount of losses consumers reported grew from 90 million to $501 million. That's more than 5 times. Specifically, the reports on tasks scams increased dramatically. So what are task scams? Task scams usually start with an unexpected text offering online work. I've gotten these myself in recent weeks. The texts often say that they're from someone who's with Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, or some other professional website. They say that you can make good money by doing simple, repetitive tasks, such as liking videos or rating product images online. Once you complete each task, you'll see an increasing tally of your supposed earnings in an app that they ask you to download. But they're fake. At some point, the app or online platform will ask you to deposit your own money to complete your next set of tasks or to get your supposed fake earnings out of the app. But if you make the deposit, not only is your real money gone, you're never getting those fake earnings that you thought you were getting. Investment scams is another huge problem I want to touch on. These are the 4th most reported scams in 2024. They're important to highlight because they had the biggest losses. People reported losing $5.7 billion last year to investment scams. That's up from $4.6 billion in 2023. You can see these numbers across the years here. You can see that they just keep going up. 79% of people who reported an investment related scam lost money, and the average loss was over $9,000. So how do investment scams work? Investment scams often claim that you'll get big returns investing in a hot new money-making opportunity, maybe something like cryptocurrency or real estate development. Some scammers often offer to help you invest your money or teach you how to make millions investing. But unfortunately, it's a scammer. And if you pay or invest with them, your money is gone. One thing I really want to highlight here, because I think it changes what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Data shows that younger people reported losing money to scams more often than older people. As you can see here, people aged 20 to 29 reported losing more money than, reported losing money more often than people who were 70 and above. Older adults, I think, have a reputation as being more vulnerable, but they're often quite savvy at avoiding scams. But there is a twist. When older adults lose money to scams, they lose a lot more money than any other age group. That makes sense. They have a lifetime's worth of savings that scammers want to get. And so all of us, whatever our age, need to be on the lookout for scams affecting ourselves and those that we love. Another trend I want to point to here. When it comes to how scammers are reaching people, email was the #1 method reported last year. For years, it had been over the phone. But note that the highest losses overall were to scams that started on social media, to the tune of $1.9 billion lost. And the highest reported losses per person were to scams that started on the phone, with an average loss of $1,500. That makes sense. Phone calls are still the best way to build a sense of trust with the victim, to create that sense of urgency, and to talk someone into paying in a strange way, and finally to isolate them from their loved ones. When people lose money to scammers by phone, they lose a lot. The social media and other electronic communications are on the rise. Scammers can blast out lots of emails, texts, and direct messages at once. So we need to be especially careful when using our phones as well. And how do people pay scammers? We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Well, the biggest scam losses happen by bank transfer or payment. Among all payment methods, people reported losing money to scams through a bank transfer or payment, followed by cryptocurrency, and then with payment apps or services at a somewhat distant third. All three of these methods have something in common. Once you send payments by bank transfer, payments, cryptocurrency, or through one of these payment apps, the money is gone. You can stop payment on a check. You can initiate a chargeback on a credit card payment. But crypto, bank transfers, and payment services like Zelle or Venmo don't allow you to reverse those payments as easily. And I want to specifically focus on crypto here, because that's really exploded from an afterthought to one of the biggest ways that scammers can collect. As I mentioned, crypto payments aren't reversible, and they don't have legal protections that other payment methods may have. Crypto is also largely anonymous, meaning you might not be able to identify your scammer when you want to track them down. In short, payments by crypto allow scammers to take the money and run. Okay, so that's what we have on scams. And I'll say as I transition topics here, I am hoping to have enough time at the end of this presentation today to answer questions you may have, including on scams and on identity theft, my second topic here. So identity theft. What is identity theft? Here's a simple definition that I think we can all wrap our arms around. Identity theft is when someone uses your personal information without your permission. Now, one thing that's really broad here is, what are they using your personal and financial information for? We'll get into that, but it can involve things like opening new credit cards, getting a car loan, filing a tax return, applying for a job. There are any number of ways that identity thieves might use your information. in any number of ways that you might learn that you've become a victim of identity theft. So let's start with what identity thieves want to steal. Your identity is what makes you unique. Identity thieves want pieces they can use. Things like your name, address, social security number, financial details, and online presence. All of these things let us get services. For example, applying for a car loan or setting up a bank account. If someone else steals this information, they can get those same services in your name. Protecting this information is important because it's so valuable. So what can thieves do with your information? Well, they can buy things. They can open up new accounts, like for credit cards. They can get new cards sent to them on your existing accounts. They can use your health insurance. They can get unemployment benefits. One thing that's not on here is they can actually apply for and get jobs that you then may have to pay taxes on later. They can steal your tax refund. So identity theft can happen to anyone. Every year, it's one of the top problems reported to the FTC. On this slide, you can see from the FTC's Consumer Sentinel database that I was telling you about earlier, these numbers cover reports that we received in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, the FTC got more than 1.1 million identity theft reports last year. As with fraud, we know that only a small fraction of the people who experience identity theft report it to the FTC. And so the identity theft problem is millions and millions of people wide across the country. And down in the lower left-hand corner of the slide, you can see that Americans experience all forms of identity theft, including credit card, bank account, tax-related, government documents, or benefits theft. So how can identity thieves get your information? Remember, this is not just telling you the bad news of what scams do and how identity theft can harm you. It's also telling you the empowering news of how you can identify ways that you may be at risk for a scam or identity theft. So the first step to avoiding identity theft is to understand our vulnerabilities, the ways that thieves get people's personal information. Unfortunately, there are a lot of ways this can happen. Maybe a thief stole your wallet or phone, or maybe your online accounts got hacked, or your information was compromised in a data breach, which gave the bad guys access to your credit cards or online banking account. Maybe there's a phishing attack where you got an email or text that appeared to be from someone that you trust or a company that you do business with, but in fact was from an identity thief. Some identity thieves even go old school and they search mailboxes and dumpsters to find your information. In the coming slides, as with scams, I'll give you some telltale signs that may allow you to spot an identity thief. So here's one example of how an identity thief might try to steal your information online. Here, you receive a text that claims your FedEx delivery is waiting for you, and you just need to click on the link to set your preferences. But you know by now that this is a scam. That's not from FedEx, and clicking on the link won't set your delivery preferences. Instead, you'll be sent to a page that looks like FedEx, where you try to log in, only to find out that your credentials now belong to an identity thief. Or maybe software will be downloaded in a way you can't see onto your phone to track your behavior once you click on this link. Regardless, don't click on the surprise text and don't enter your personal information. One thing that's not shown here, but that I really want to zoom in on, is that there are two very different types of texts that you can receive. Sometimes you'll get a text that's from a 5-digit number that is probably registered with your cell phone carrier. Those tend to be the ones that provide you information. Other times you can get a text like this about a FedEx package from, maybe it's from a 10-digit number, regular old telephone number. Maybe it's from an email address that you don't recognize, but it's coming by text. I've received these myself. Those are not registered with the phone carriers, and those don't provide you with information. They seek information from you. They want you to give them information, and that's a sure sign of an identity thief. Here's another example, and this one's especially nasty because, I'll be honest, it seems kind of fun. There are these online personality tests, quick surveys, other types of quizzes, often on social media. You know, they may ask you seemingly harmless questions about your knowledge about the movies or your personality type. But the more information you or your loved one shares, the more they risk that it is going to get misused. Scammers can do a lot of damage with just a few answers that give away your personal information. We've heard about scammers phishing for answers to security questions through online quizzes like this. Thieves use quiz answers to try to reset accounts, letting them steal bank and other account information. Some scammers hack social media accounts and send malware links to friends of the hacked account holder under the guise of sharing a quiz. So we need to be really careful with these quizzes, even though they can be kind of fun. Scammy QR codes are another way that thieves may take information. QR codes seem to be everywhere last night. You may have scanned a QR code to see the menu at a restaurant. I did the last time I ate at a restaurant, or to pay for public parking. You might have used a QR code on your phone to get into a concert or sporting event or to board a flight. There are countless other ways to use them, which explains their popularity. Unfortunately, scammers hide harmful links in QR codes to steal personal information. For example, scammers sometimes cover up QR codes on parking meters with one of their own. Some scammers might send you or someone you love a QR code by text message or email and make up a reason to scan it. Maybe supposedly suspicious activity or a problem on an account or a missed package delivery. These are all, of course, lies to get you to scan the QR code and open the URL without you thinking about it. So now that we know how to spot identity theft online, how do we avoid it? Well, for starters, we've discussed this, but I can't repeat it enough. Never click on links in emails, texts, or social media messages that you don't recognize. If you wonder about it, type in the website you know, not the one that's in the message. This is one of the top things that you should know. And having your login credentials is something that you and you alone control. What you click on, where you put in your information, those are the keys to avoiding identity theft. Some additional things you can do: use strong passwords, a combination of numbers, letters, upper and lowercase letters, symbols. Passwords with your mom's maiden name or your kid's birthday, that's not going to cut it. And don't use the same passwords for all of your different accounts, especially once you get a notification that they've been used in a breach. Use multi-factor authentication when it's an option, particularly for your financial accounts and your email and social media accounts. When you sign up for multi-factor authentication, what that means is that companies will require something in addition to your login and your password. Most often, that's the 6-digit code I was describing earlier. So maybe I know Google has this option where you log into your Gmail account. And if you're using a device for the first time, it'll say, wait just a minute, we're sending you a text to this number with a 6-digit code. Please tell us what that code is. Sign up for that option on your account. That way, if a hacker gets your password somehow, they can't get into your account with the password alone. Keep your security software and operating system up to date. Oftentimes, I know these updates can be annoying, but oftentimes they're being pushed out because of risks about the security of your phone or your computer. Making sure that you're staying up to date is essential for keeping you safe. Okay, so how do we know if someone's stolen our identity? Well, there's a few ways that we can protect ourselves. One is always read your bills and your bank account statement. Are there charges for things you didn't buy? Are there withdrawals in your bank statements that you didn't make? These could be the signs of an identity thief. Check your mail. Did you stop getting a bill? Did you get a bill for an account that you never opened? Or a letter about an employer you don't recognize? I just saw a report on the news 2 nights ago here in Dallas that one of my colleagues was interviewed for about a woman who received a tax form from a business in Louisiana for her employment at that business. She had never worked there before, and that was a sign that her identity had been stolen. Get your credit report, and we'll talk more about this on the next slide. Is the information there accurate? If you see a lot of accounts that you don't recognize, that could be a sign of an identity theft. In a minute, I'll tell you how to get your credit report for free every week. Okay, so how to protect yourself? You can protect yourself by going to annualcreditreport.com. And even though that's the name of the website, even though it says annual, you can actually get a free credit report every week. Look out for incorrect names, addresses, or social security numbers, unknown accounts, unknown balances on current accounts, inquiries from companies you have not contacted. If you see these signs of an identity theft, here are the action steps that I want you to take. Review your report from a credit bureau often. Contact them to fix any mistakes. You can see here that you can learn more at ftc.gov/credit about how to contact the credit bureaus. And report your identity theft at identitytheft.gov, which we're going to go into a little more detail on in just a minute here. The second thing you can do to protect yourself is to implement what's called a credit freeze. That limits access that others can get to your credit report. And that in turn means that identity thieves will have a much harder time opening a credit card, getting a loan, opening a bank account in your name. It's free to place a credit freeze. It's also free to lift a credit freeze, and they last until you lift them. What you would need to do is contact all 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Provide your identification information and set up a freeze to protect against unauthorized access to your credit file. One thing I want to be really clear on, because I know we have folks who are homeowners who maybe have a mortgage, other loans. Putting a credit freeze in place will not affect your ability to get any of those forms of financing. Think of it like a lid on your credit. You can take it off anytime you choose, and you can put it right back on later. A third way to protect yourself. This is what you should do if you found out that you've been the victim of an identity theft. The first rule of identity theft, if you're a victim, is act quickly. If you know what accounts were compromised, I want you to immediately contact whoever holds those accounts and tell them what happened. So you see that your bank account's been drawn down on. Contact your bank right away. Same thing with your credit card. Then go to identitytheft.gov as soon as possible. It's an FTC website where you can report identity theft and get a personalized plan to help you recover from any problem the theft may have caused. Simply click Get Started, as shown here on the slide, and follow the prompts. You'll put in whatever details you know about how your identity was stolen or misused. The site then uses that information to create a customized recovery plan for you. You can also report in English or in Spanish by going to robodeidentidad.gov. Identitytheft.gov is a one-stop resource. It is a streamlined process to report and recover. There are personal recovery plans for more than 30 types of identity theft. There's online consumer guidance. There's sample letters for you to provide to your bank, to local police, and so on. There are forms for reporting identity theft, like the required IRS form to report a tax identity theft. And I have just a couple of final slides here where I want to show you this is how simple identitytheft.gov is. You can see that you're really only being asked to put in your name, your address, phone number, email, and the ways that you may have noticed identity theft, so that the website can provide you with a plan to recover from it. Here you can see that you can use identitytheft.gov to file identity theft reports with the FTC, but also potentially with the IRS, so that you can protect your tax identity against false tax returns. Okay, I've really been honored to present to you today, but I also want to make sure that this isn't the end of the conversation for you. If you have a fraud, a scam you'd like to report, go to reportfraud.ftc.gov, as shown right here. We already talked about, if you think that you're a victim of identity theft, go to identitytheft.gov. Sign up for consumer alerts at ftc.gov/consumer alerts, and learn more about scams and identity theft at consumer.ftc.gov. As you can see, all of these resources are available on the FTC's website, which again is ftc.gov. And with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions you may have.
Matt, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that one of the slides you presented that young people report scams more than older people? Do you think sometimes when you think you're older, you're more shameful to admit fraud or scams?
That may be it. I think there's probably with anything involving millions of reports, I think there's going to be a lot of explanations. I do think folks are hesitant sometimes to report fraud, and that can be because maybe you don't know how to do so or where to do so. It can be because you may be ashamed, like you said. There's all sorts of reasons why. I hope what folks learn today is that fraud is a multi-billion-dollar industry that affects millions of consumers each year. There is no shame if you are one of those millions of consumers. What you should do is turn around and report that fraud so that you can better protect all of us. And when it comes to identity theft, that you can help stop the harm that's affecting you at that moment.
I've got a couple of questions in the chat box. One of them says, how do they steal your tax refund?
So that can be done in a number of ways. I think one of the primary ways is getting access to your social security number, which you should never give out to a stranger. You should never get out by clicking on a link. You should never get out in response to an unexpected text or call. But typically it involves getting your identity information, including your social security number, potentially email and login information, date of birth, other information like this from you. So it's really important that you don't provide that information online in response to unexpected texts and calls.
Right. So also, if they deposit the money into their bank account and the names don't match, does the bank really catch that information? You know, when the tax refund?
I think what I suspect happens typically is that an identity thief who's savvy enough to set up an IRS account in your name will also set up a bank account in your name. That's not one you know about. It's one of these accounts you only see if you are checking your credit report. And
Right.
that makes it easier to get the money out from the IRS to the bank account and then on to you. Sorry, to the identity thief.
To the identity thing. Okay. And then a couple more questions. Is it risky to open the email, or is it just risky when you click on their links?
It's typically risky to click on links and not just to open email. But I will say this is really important. Opening attachments in an email can also be risky. Attachments can have files in them that can include viruses, that include malware, things that once they're on your computer or your phone can track every click, every website that you go to, every password that you put in. So it's not just avoid the links, it's also avoid the attachments.
Okay. And we won't hold folks too long, but they're chiming in with the questions, Matt. And this has been some great information. It says my kids are playing games online. What can I do to make sure our Wi-Fi passwords and other online credentials are not compromised? Kids will click on any link.
I understand that kids can click on links. I think this is a great moment for education for our kids. Our kids are going to be online their whole lives, right? And so we need to talk to them early on about what is safe and what is not safe online. And that goes for clicking on links. And we all know that goes for a lot of other stuff on the internet too. It's a conversation I have with my kids probably at least once a week is what should you be doing online? What should you not be doing online? That said, using, for example, virtual private networks can help with security of your network within the house. That's what's called a VPN. If you Google that, you can kind of find out more about it. Certainly using unique online credentials, unique usernames and passwords for your most important accounts, like your bank account and your email accounts. That's certainly what I do. Those passwords for me are totally different than they might be for a less important account. Those are just a couple of the steps. And then using a secure Wi-Fi network, meaning one with a password and one with a password that's not just the address of your house or something that anybody could guess on their first guess.
Okay. A couple more questions and we're gonna let you go, Matt. And I thank you.
My
Then
pleasure.
the question is, there are services that offer to help remove all the personal information. Is it safe to give your personal information to them?
I'm sorry, services that provide what? I missed that part of the question.
That offer to help remove all the personal information. Maybe they're talking, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Miss Jennifer. Can you kind of re-ask that question? Um,
I think I may understand it. So if a company is offering
right.
to either clean up your reputation online or help you recover from an identity theft, is it okay to provide your personal information to them?
Right, right.
And the answer I would provide is it depends on the company. You need to be really careful. So you need to do a lot of research into that company to make sure it's legit and to make sure that you trust your personal information to a company that is offering to provide that service, because that's also an easy way for a company to get your most private details and steal them.
Right. So research, research, research.
That's right.
Anybody have any other questions? This information has been so good. It's been, I mean, the numbers you presented was astounding. I mean, billions of people online, online, and everything is just a way that we live right now. So you just have to be careful, careful, careful. Anybody else have any? Thank you, Matt, for all of this information. I'm some kind of way, I'm gonna save some of these slides. I probably should have took some pictures of it, but this has been some great information, and we thank you. We can count on you to come back and teach some more of this stuff, right?
Please let me know when you'd like more. It's been my absolute pleasure. Please, everybody, stay safe out there. And thank you again to Monica, to Aretha, and to all of the Dallas area Habitat for Humanity for having me.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.